Peace, everyone. Willfully, you can hear me. Just give me a moment here. And if you can hear me, please just let me know. I'm just finishing up some of my messaging. Okay. Um, I don't see any we can hear you. Like, what do they say to do? Put a number one, right? They say hit the number one or something like that. They let me know you can hear. Loud and clear. Okay, thank you. Cool. That's all I need. Thank you so much. All right. Just give me a second. Got a lot of things happening at once. Okay, so let's. I got a little bit of time, and I'm gonna try to get in peace, everyone. I'm looking at the chat as well, so peace to you all, and for those of you who are coming in and whatnot. Um, so yeah, so I've been getting a lot of correspondences sent in to me in regards to. Now, let me just forewarn you. Um, I'm going to be doing this session, and I'm probably going to have about six other things going on at the same time. All right, so I'm not going to be giving you my undivided attention. Um, it is what it is, right? Okay, but I will be giving you some information to hold on to. All right, so a lot of us are aware. I guess we don't have to do much of a rundown of what's been occurring in not only the United States but across the globe right now in terms of widespread panic. All right, so I'm gonna get right to it. I know I didn't do a segment last strong, and for those who've been reaching out, they kind of know I've been MIA for a little bit. Uh, just had some things that I needed to take care of that I'm still taking care of. Right. So let's get into what needs to happen. I'm gonna get right into it. So we have two things we need to be focused on, and forgive me if I do, but I'm gonna really make attempts to be as mature as possible in this segment because there is a part of me that wants to like focus on I told you so. Didn't I tell you? There's a part of me that wants to do that, but I know that that's not necessarily that's not productive right now. So I'll get you later. I got a good memory. I have very good memory, so I will tell you I told you so later. But I would definitely say one of the first things that some of you could do, because a lot of people have been reaching out, like, "What should we do, Chief? What should we do?" And it's like I can't speak for other men, but I know for myself as a man, I hate repeating myself. Like I don't like to have to repeat myself. So I would just say if you listen to it, there was like a 1 minute clip that I provided. Sometimes people need "I told you so" moments. Well, then y'all tell them. um, I'm not gonna do it yet, cause people are panicking, and you got to address that. And for where I am as a chief, there's certain things that I have to do and I'm not allowed to do, cause what's in my heart right now is like really like f them. I told them, they don't listen. They're so defiant. They want to argue everything and debate everything. F them. But the Most High didn't call me to be that person, or to follow after the feelings of my own heart, which can be really cold, honestly. So I would say definitely though go back to there was a clip I had did. It's either on IG, Facebook, it's around here, where I did the reading for 2019, the fiscal reading, and one of the things I said was hard commodities. I said we're coming into a year where things are going to crash. It's only like a 1 minute clip, and I said, you need to invest in hard commodities. And then I did a segment right after that clip to explain more what that meant because so many people had reached out and were like, "What's a hard commodity?" Um, so I had said at that time, food. You need to invest in food. You need to have a food store. You also need to invest in gold. You know, you have hard asset, you have paper asset. A paper asset, Peace Logan, would be like a stock. Like I have a stock or a REIT fund. Something that's primarily, you invest in it in by name, and then you have hard investments. A hard investment would be like a can of corn, or some beans or some bullets, right? So I kind of explained that. So I would say go back, check that out. And then when the flooding happened in the Midwest, I urged you guys again, and I said, we're coming towards a crash, and the food stores have been wiped. So these are plagues. I think I had even made the association to a time when plagues are hitting. So I would say definitely go back and check those. And then I did the one on the coronavirus recently, where I gave some information just in like a broader sense for like what you can do. All right, so I'm gonna do this probably. I don't think I'm gonna do it again after this. To be honest with you, uh, maybe I don't want to say never say never. If it's on my spirit to share more information again, I will. But um, it takes a lot, because part of me is like, uh, why didn't you just listen when I told you the first time? Why didn't you just, I don't lie. I don't lie to you. I do lie, but I don't lie to you. I will lie though. I've lied my way out of uh, tickets, arrests. No, I'm joking. Uh, Long time ago. So yeah, but my point I'm saying is that at some point, you got to humble yourself up to leadership. And I'm not saying that I'm your leader. I'm only leading my family. The rest of you guys, it's on you, But if someone knows more or has been invested in a certain thing a little bit more or has more prophetic insight, just listen to it. Like stop taking it as a joke, So I would say, let's kind of start there because that's one of your best protections. A lot of the things that I know to do, I didn't necessarily come up with those things. Like I didn't invent survivalism. You know, I talked to people and I learned and I went to seminars and workshops, and I've been doing that for many many years. You know, I just don't talk about it because you know sometimes you end up being that guy. And it could be a little convoluted. Um, so I would say, you know, go back and check those things out the information I shared with you before on those segments, even some of the Thunderground Thursdays, things like that. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to go over some basics with you all. This is not going to be an esoteric teaching. So if you're looking for like the theories and stuff, I'm not doing that right now. Maybe we'll do that later. Like for right now, it's about survivalism. It's about surviving, and then we can talk about later. Is this real? Who did it? What's it really about? But let's kind of and I would only hope that those of you who have been following um, certain figures are wise enough now to recognize the garbage from the truth. Like, if you still got people doing astrological breakdowns at this point on what's happening, and I'm not discrediting any astrologers or anything like that, but if that's still happening and they're not giving you some hands-on pragmatic guidance, then I would hope that this would be a wake-up call to you at this point. Um, I would hope. Okay, so uh-oh. All right, we're back. I don't know what happened. Froze up there for a moment. So yeah, I would just say that, and everything that I'm saying right now is a part of your survival. Like sitting in the midst of good counsel is very important right now, and good people, of course, but not just those who are spewing negativity or a whole lot of esoterics, but really who have their feet on the ground and who are making things happen. That's one of your survival at this time, and I kind of shared that last time when I spoke about getting around other people who think like you. Well, but I'll get into that. So I'm going to focus on two things primarily, and these are just basics. Um, we have preparedness, and then where we're basically preparing where we are in the area that we are or the home that we are, and we're preparing for a particular situation and how to fend ourselves off from a particular situation. And then we have the type of preparedness for disasters that we do, where we're preparing ourselves to get somewhere safe, right? And I want to make it clear, like, this isn't about the virus. And again, I'm not going to get like all esoteric. Uh, I can, but I want to keep it practical. It's not about the virus. You know, the influenza takes out more people. Now, of course, this might be scarier to some because they say there's no cure, but your problem is not the virus. Your problem is the reaction to it. Okay? I'm gonna keep it simple because I don't want to get off into the they conversation. And they about the, and that we're gonna skip that, but we're just gonna focus on what we need to do, and then we can have, like I said, we can have those other talks later. We can't really afford to have those talks right now. All right, so let's start with the first thing. If you have to make a move, if you got a boogie, right? The first thing that you should have right now, even if it's not complete, but I want you to start putting it together, is what we call a bug out bag. Okay? Some of you may be familiar with the term, some of you may not be. But you got to have a bug out bag. You got to have a bug out bag. You got to have a bug out bag. All right? You can't get around that. All right? And every member of your family needs to have one, even the babies, even your pets, right? And a bug out bag is basically an emergency evacuation kit, if you will. And it's a bag that you'll leave near your front door. A lot of houses are designed where there's like a coat closet or whatever near the front door. Put your bug out bag there. If you live by yourself and the space is not an issue, just put it next to the wall, right? Put it together today. I don't care if it's in a shopping bag. All right. You could fix it up later. You could fix it up later. All right. So essentially, you want to have essentials, right? That's the main thing. You want to have essentials so that if you have to make a journey somewhere as a result of an emergency happening, you have some things that can carry you through, right? So, what are some of the things that you are going to put into your bag? Um, First, and it varies depending on, honestly, age and if you're male or if you're female, right? So I'll give you an example. If you're female, you'd want to have feminine hygiene products in there. As a man, we don't necessarily have that issue, but you know how long your menses typically last. So typically, when we're dealing with survivalism, we work in a series of threes. Whether we're preparing for 3 days, three strongs, 3 months, right? Now, from what I know about the menses, some women it lasts longer than 3 days. So you may have to prepare for that. So you want to have enough whatever you use inside of your bag to carry you through at least a month's you know experience. I would also say the good thing about having those, even if you don't use them, is that you can use them for other things. I know in my studio I use pads to muffle my drums. So if you ever have to mic up a drum kit, you can always use pads because they keep the toms and everything from ringing uh, when you're trying to do isolation recording. All right. But aside from laying a drum track with feminine products, You can use them obviously for cuts and wounds and like that because they're very absorptive. Um, Even if you need to like start a fire, you can use them. All right, so again, that's something you would have in there. Speaking of fire, and let me just give you a heads up. I'm not going to cover everything. I'm not even trying to cover everything. I'm just going to give you some basics, and then, like I said, if if the Most High tells me to speak again, I will. But leave it up to me. I'm not. I see you on the other side of this thing. All right. So anyway, so speaking of, like I said, starting fires and things, you'd also want to make sure that you have waterproof matches is another big thing. Make sure that you have waterproof matches. Make sure that you have lighters, right? And what's good is the camping lighters, that have a more focused blade on them. They tend to burn a little stronger, a little better. But definitely the waterproof matches, because sometimes in some environments you will not get your lighters to light, or depending on what kind of emergency it is, if it's a flood or heavy raining and stuff like that, you want to have your waterproof matches. Okay, so that's another thing you want in your bag. You also want all copies of your essential identification. You don't have to put your originals in there, but put copies of like your driver's license or your state ID, um, of your passport. I am actually an advocate of just putting your passport in your bug out bag. Like that's the permanent storage for your passport. Um, and let me just give you, so what I'm going to do in this session, I'm going to give you some of my inside stuff, my own personal stuff that I don't talk about as much. But me, I always have my passport on me. I don't go anywhere without my passport. So I'm saying like it's always on me. It's always on me, right? I'm ready to leave the land at any moment. So that's me. Everyone is a little different, but I would say always keep, in my opinion, it's good to keep it in your bug out bag instead of like having a bag and forgetting it, or having to try to get back to the house, or maybe I can apply for it. You never know what the situation is, right? With that said, you want to have uh, those copies of your documentation uh, in waterproof, like Ziploc bags and things like that, because again, you don't know what the situation may be. Um, and there's two things to that, which we'll get into in a second. All right, so you want copies of your ID so that you can prove that you own certain things. Like if there's an issue with your apartment or issue with your house, you want to be able to prove that you are who you say you are, even if you don't have access to your physical identification, right? Um, and I should have probably said this first. I'm flowing off the top, so the order may be a little backwards. First thing you need to do, we're gonna ignore all those for right now. First thing you need to do is you need to create a map of your home. Okay. First thing you need to do. I'm sorry, I should have said this first. Um, Especially if you have young children, but you need to have a map of the home. And I'm saying every room, right? Just take some time, get a large enough piece of paper, sketch it out, right? And then what you'll do is you'll determine where it's best to, if there's an issue, or if someone's trying to break in through a window, if you have a fire escape or whatever, what's the best ways to move around, or the hiding places, or how to get out of the house, right? If you have young children, that's especially important, man, because for those of you who are not really young, a lot of times when we were young, if there's a problem, the first idea is I'm gonna hide under my bed. Like no matter what it is, I'm scared, I'm gonna go in my closet, or I'm gonna go in my bed, right? So you want to make sure that the younger people are well prepared and they know where they need to go. Now, outside of that, there should also be a safe location to travel to outside of the home, right? So, this I spoke about this recently when I said, do you know your neighbors, and which one of them, or if any of them, would you actually trust if there was a situation? So there should be a place that's in line of sight from your actual home that you can point to the young people or even older people in your home and say, if something happens, this is where we're going. You see Mr. So and so's house over there, or Miss So and so's house over there, or whatever. Go over there and bang on the door. It doesn't matter what time of night. And obviously, you need to inform Mr. or Mrs. So and so, that you're my, you're my safe spot. You're my getaway spot. So if you hear some banging on the door at 3 a.m. or my child is out there screaming for you, this is why. So that's an important thing that you want to do. Make sure that everybody kind of knows where to meet up, and it needs to be somewhere that they can see from the house. Nothing that, you don't want your child. If you might have a very young 6, 7 year old child in the middle of the street trying to read a map, and like, you don't want that. So you want them to be able to, I'm going right there. All right. And you may have more than one of those, which is fine. I have them across states. Okay, so if I'm not here, go there. If I'm not there, and then I also have them across countries. So if I'm not here, or you can't make it there, then we're gonna go get a flight here, and then go here when you get that flight, and then right. So I say I'm tell a little bit of my stuff. I ain't gonna tell too much of my stuff, but because honestly, if it takes, yeah, I'm gonna try not to talk about this stuff too much, but if it takes me to have to tell you to get prepared, especially for some of you men, um, yeah, yeah, it should, I shouldn't have to tell you. If I do, you're gonna die. Whatever they're concocting, you're gonna be powerless to it. So I'll just say it like that. So be prepared to, you know, you better teach your daughter how to handle a man. And what I mean by handle a man, she'll probably have to prostitute herself for you to put some food on the table. And if your wife's a looker, she's gonna have to prostitute herself too. Because if it takes me to tell you to prepare and protect and keep your family safe, if you haven't even thought about it, haven't even put anything in place, then hopefully you got some pretty daughters and some pretty sons. Okay? So, with that being said, you want to make sure, again, all of the young people, older people, they know the rally point, they know where to go, right? Um, so that would be like the first two. I should have said those before I told you about the bug out. First two, where do we go? If there's a fire or something, we got to get in like immediately right outside of the house. Then you'll have a rallying point after that, and there should be inside of the house. There should be a map of what are the exits that we can use, or where we would all meet to try to get out of, because a lot of times, like, um, you don't think about it, like, because the media kind of messes with our minds a little bit in terms of how things look. you know when there's a fire, and I've seen fires, I've been inside of places that were on fire. It's not like, all right, where we gonna go, like it's hot, and then you just touch the doorknob like, oh, it's hot. It's not like that. Like, you can't see anything when there's a fire. um it's pitch black. If you've ever burned a plastic bag, like, you see how much toxic smoke comes from it, and how black that smoke is. So imagine all of those things like that burning inside of an enclosed space. You can't see anything. You can't see right in front of your face, and then you're choking from all of peace, brother Jaden, by the way. But you're choking from all of the smoke. So you need to be able to, like, run drills. You remember we used to do those in school, the fire drills. Um, but you need to be able to run drills to know, like, okay, even with my eyes closed, this is the door I can get out. This is the hallway we could use, whatever. Because it may be like that in a natural emergency. Like, if there's a fire and it's smoked out, you won't be able to breathe, so you got to move kind of quick. All right. So those two things we start with, and then let's go back to our bug out bag. And again, we're still talking about if you have to leave out of your space, some of the things that you would have. So one of the things that I shared was copies of your ID and waterproof bags, or at least Ziploc bags, waterproof matches, lighters, of course. If you're a woman, feminine hygiene products that will carry you through. And even if you have, like, the young daughter should have that, if they're even around that age where it might happen. You want to make sure that they're covered. One of the things, most important things, is water. Right? You can go 3 days without water. Right? We function by the rules of three, and typically you're going to use about a gallon of water per day. But and that's for cleaning and everything. But in an emergency situation, cleaning and drinking, You want to keep that as a rule of thumb, but you may not necessarily be able to carry 3 gallons of water with you, especially let's say if you have a family and it's 5 or 6 of you. If it's 5 or 6 of you, let's say if it's 6 of you, that's 36 gallons of water that you have to carry. That's a lot of water. So you want to make sure that even in your bug out plan that, and that's if you're looking at 3 days at a clip. So you want to make sure that in your bug out plan that you're maybe like if you say, okay, well, we're going to go this way, we're going to travel this way, there may be a stream or a river there where we can collect some water, use our matches, start a fire, boil it so that we can utilize it, or just wash up in the stream, right? We'll get into that in a moment. So again, you need water. All right. So you got to make sure you have some water in your bug out bag. Now you know what? Before I go on, like I know I'm jumping around, but just go for the ride. Let's talk about the bug out bag for a moment before we get to the food. Don't get an army bag. Okay. In fact, and I know sometimes we get possessed by the spirit of consumerism. So some of the things that you're hearing me talk about, you might get excited and then you jump online and, oh, I'm gonna get this, and I'm reading reviews on bags and different clothes and things that I could utilize. You know, don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because in a survival situation, you know, I come from that very horrible and demonic era where young men used to get killed for their clothing. I came up in that very terrible, violent era. If you had on a pair of certain sneakers or a certain kind of coat. I mean, I remember young men getting stuck up for when I was young. It was like shearling coats. I think they came around again, but like the shearling was a big thing. And getting stabbed for this shearling and things like that. And then many years later, it was the North Face or things like that. So you want to make sure that you're wearing clothing, articles of clothing, and carrying like even your bag and stuff that you're not kind of standing out as someone who has something, right? So tactical bags may be very tempting, especially because with the tactical bags, and I'm talking about like the military tactical bags, you can attach other things to them, like your water, your lights, and everything. They have the Velcro connectors and everything. Don't use them. Don't use them. Trust me. Um, the best kind of bag you want to use for a bug out bag, for your main bug out bag, you're gonna have more than one. We'll get into that. The best kind of bag you want to use is actually a hiking bag. Hiking bags are very light and they're very durable, and they're made to carry a lot, and you can blend in with a hiking bag. Um, and you want to get the type of bag. The best ones are the ones that have the rain shield. So there's usually a zipper component on the bottom or the top. You pull it over, and you can, if it's raining, you can cover the whole bag, so you don't have to worry about your things getting wet. Um, you may be thinking about being fashionable and things like that. So you say, well, let me get a black bag because it will go with everything. Do not get black bags. The best color bags you can get are olive, are gray, um, any kind of tan, those type of colors. First of all, bags that don't look like military issue. Number one, don't get a camouflage bag, right? But you want to get something so that you blend in, you look very plain. We call it the gray man look, But also, if you're walking for a long time in the sun, your bag is not cooking everything that you have inside of it. So if you have a black bag, as you probably know, black absorbs, sunlight a bit more. So you could end up spoiling or even just kind of melting some of the things that you have in your bag. So you don't want to use a dark color bag like that for your bug out bag. My personal favorite again is gray. Just everything gray, everything gray. Don't get military issue boots. Get regular, comfortable hiking shoes because you never know. You may end up having to walk 15, 20 miles, right? So unless you're trained, I am professionally trained to walk 20 miles in a pair of Timberlands. But unless you're from New York, you don't have the Timberland expertise that we have. So I would suggest don't use Timberlands in boots like that, but try to get some basic hiking boots that you can use that are very comfortable to wear. And again, keep it simple. You don't want something that you're gonna have to worry about someone sticking you up for, like someone trying to steal your sneakers or steal your bag. And again, you want to blend in. You don't want to look like you have anything. Now let's go back. So now you know what the bag should look like. I'm not a big fan of totes or duffel bags because they'll create pressure on one side, and again, you don't know how long you'll be walking. You might be walking 40 miles. If you have a, let's say, a wilderness path. So you don't. I'm not a big fan of like strap acrosses and stuff. Anything that's gonna put uneven weight. Um, but you do what you want to do, right? But I would say the best thing is a hiking bag, right? You don't go crazy. You don't have to go buy a $700 hiking bag because someone's going to take your bag. All right. So get something basic, right? So with that being said, so you know what the bag looks like now. You got water in it. You need a gallon a day, right? Or be able to secure a gallon. Um, and you need copies of your ID, waterproof matches, a lighter. You also want, I would suggest, a multi-purpose knife. Okay, multi-purpose knives. Knives. Some of you may know them as like Swiss Army knives. Um, I mean, those are like just heaven sent. You want a multi-purpose knife. Some of them they have not only bottle openers, can openers, things like that, but also you have the knife itself, scissors, things like that, and they range in prices. The Swiss knives. You can get pretty decent ones online. I'm not gonna shout out prices, anything like that, not right now, and I don't have a list in the description of where you can get them. Maybe I'll have my assistant add it later. But right now, do your due diligence. I'm telling you what you need to get. You work out the rest. Um, and also the reason, because I know the prices on everything are probably double and triple right now. So I don't be like, you can get a good knife for $20 and it's $80. You know. Um, let me put you up on some game. I'm jumping around a little bit, but a great place to secure stuff that people skip over, man. Thrift stores. Go to thrift stores. All right. Now I know in the South, I guess it's the porn store. The porn store is a big thing in the South. You probably can go because I know in porn store. I'm not gonna say that anymore. But porn stores, you can also get ammunition, right? And we'll get into the ammunition thing in a minute. But thrift stores, a lot of times you can get a lot of army issued goods from thrift stores. I've gotten so much stuff you wouldn't even imagine, that you wouldn't think. So like even sometimes garage sales, you get like metal canteens, which are great because you can use those to boil water too, the metal ones. You know, but I've gotten like really good canvas bags. I mean, I can't go over all the things I've gotten from thrift stores over the years, but I've been prepping, man, since the '90s. So, you know, I got, I've been patient. You know what I mean? So like if I see something, I know now the situation is different, so you may not have time to go from thrift store to thrift store, but just keep in mind that that's a really good situation, as far as like being able to find stuff. You'd be shocked the stuff you can find in thrift stores. Because a lot of times you do have old vets or people who just want that stuff out the house, and the average person doesn't want, things like that. So, old cast iron pots and things like that, which really come in handy, right? So that's a little side game, for you. But anyway, back to what you would have in it. So let's get into the food piece, right? So you want things in terms of food that are high calorie. Now you can get MRE packets. Oh, I had the chat up for a minute. I took it back down. I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep an eye on the chat. So let me just say, um, if you have questions, just ask them. And I'll try to glance at the chat every once in a while. I don't think there's any questions now, but I'll answer your questions. until my this battery dies. All right. So I'll glance back again in a little while. But yeah, so you can get MRE packets, meal replacements. Those are cool. I'm not a huge fan of them, but your mileage may vary. So if you right now, I would say it's probably not a good time to try to purchase anything double and triple priced. And again, for your bug out bag, you're not looking for long term things. I'm a advocate of keeping your bug out bag. Oh, okay, all right, thank you. I'm okay. All right, sorry about that. I guess when the phone went off, the stream stopped. But I was gonna say that I'm an advocate of keeping your bug out bag as light as possible, right? It may be tempting to just keep filling it up, filling it up, filling it up. Um, Anything over 30 pounds for me is too much. And yeah, for some of us, I'm a kind of on the bigger side. So I mean, yeah, I can carry more, but you never know what you're gonna get as well. So I'm saying this to like the men. Don't let your ego get away with you. You might be a bigger person like me. Say, well, I can carry a 60-pound bag, 70-pound bag. Don't do it. Again, you don't know what kind of terrain you're going to be going through or if you need to run or whatever. So keep your bag light, right? So you can use MRE kits, which you basically just dehydrate them. If that's your thing, cool. It depends on your constitution and what you want to eat. For me, I don't eat any animal products, so I'm a huge advocate of nut butters. You know, um, with some water and some nut butter, I can pretty much you know, uh, you know, do raw knuckle, bare knuckle street fighting for at least 7 to 8 hours straight. Nut butter takes me pretty far, so I don't really need much. Um, but everyone is different. But I would definitely say like you can get like date bars, like any kind of natural bar. Things that are dried out because obviously they last. And like I'm a fan of things that have like dates or raisins mixed with nut butters because you're gonna get some carbs in there and you're gonna get some protein in there. Some of you meat eaters, though, I would suggest if you're gonna put anything like any kind of meat in your bug out bag, you can put like wild caught. Well, just put salmon. You don't have to do the wild caught. You know, um, it's just, if I was doing it, I'd do wild caught. But it doesn't matter in an emergency situation. You're not gonna be. Is this GMO? Is it just eat it, right? Um, what's your take on chlorine tablets for water? I'll get right back to you on that. Um, so I would say, again, if you're a meat eater, sardines are excellent. Any kind of canned meat is really good, but you can also get the bagged. I know you can get it for tuna, you can get it for salmon. I don't know about other meat. I don't know about that stuff, but they're slim. The reason I like them is because they're slim and they're light, and because they're not in a can, you don't have a risk of cutting yourself or stuff like that. Again, you want to minimize the risk of injury when you're bugging out, right? So if you're a meat eater, some even advocate, some survivalists will advocate also beef jerky. Again, I'm not a meat eater, and even in a survival situation, if I'm gonna eat any meat, um, I'm not gonna pack any meat. But if I'm gonna eat meat, it's probably gonna be meat that I caught and killed myself. So you know, I, on that one, I'm not really, you know. Okay, I got you on the power source one. So that one I'm not really, but I can tell you sardines, tuna. These are things you can get in bags, and that's how you want to pack. You don't want too many cans, too much stuff dingling and jingling around, because you never know in a survival situation what kind of mission you may have to go on to get to one place to another. I remember watching a documentary. I think it was Wade in the Water. In the Water, it was about Katrina, and it showed a brother where he had to commandeer a truck. He had to steal a truck off of a lot, and he used it to move like a whole lot of people from one place to another, right? So if you're in a situation where maybe you do have to kind of be a little stealth, you don't want tickling, gling, 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 all in your backpack while you're moving around. All right. So now I'm going to answer a couple questions and I'm going because I don't want to get too distracted. So I was asked, what is my take on chlorine tablets for water purification? I tell you the best thing you could do as far as using chlorine to purify water is use the tablets that are used for pools, to chlorinate pools. You can get them much cheaper, and even right now, putting you up on some game, people are not even getting them. Everybody's clearing the stores of bleach, right? Get the tablets that they use for chlorinating pools. You get a lot more of it. You get a whole lot more of it, and it's a lot cheaper. Here's the trick, though. You have to make sure that it doesn't have the algae inhibitor inside of it. The algae inhibitor is toxic. Okay, so you want the ones that just are like straight sodium chloride, which is just basically straight bleach, but without the algae inhibitor. Without the, and it's actually cheaper because it doesn't have the algae inhibitor. That's what you do to purify your water. Okay, you can use bleach if you want, but right now you're not gonna get. You're gonna go somewhere. They're gonna tell you you can only get one bottle. Stuff like that. So, uh, you can probably still go online and order because who's thinking about cleaning their pool right now, right? But it's the same stuff. All right, so that's a little trick you can use for that. And then you always have boiling, you always have oregano oil and other things like that that purify water. The other one that I saw, if I remember correctly, let me look at my thing here, but I think you asked me about, um, yeah, any recommendations, Christopher. You asked any recommendations, and the water tablet that was for you, Empress T. I don't think I see other questions, but what is one underneath? I'll get to that one. So, and Chris, you asked any recommendations for portable power sources? Yes, absolutely. Which goes in the bug out bag. So I was going to add that, but I'll add it now. Portable solar panels. Okay, so with portable solar panels, one of the first things for me I think about is prevention and protection, right? So you'll hear some preppers talk about generators and things like that, and that's cool. But generators make a lot of noise, and if we're in a long term situation, and I want you to be clear, like I'm not just speaking about this Corona situation. I'm telling you how to try to survive. Period. Whether it's a flood, it's a hurricane, civil unrest, we'll say political unrest, or you just need to, you know, you did something that you just need to go, right? So I want to keep that in mind. This is not specific to this. This is something that you should have. Everyone should have all the time. All right. So portable solar panels. You can if you do a search even for like camping solar panels, that's what you want because they make no noise. And they have the ones that like you get three panels and they'll fold up. So they're small. They have ones that are like here to here. They'll go right into your backpack. You just unfold them and then they have USB ports right on them. So from there you can charge up your devices. You can even run a solar light, or you could charge up your battery pack, which is another thing that needs to be inside of your bug out bag. And there's different packs. For me, I want at least a one with a 10,000 rating on it. So I would say definitely have your pack with you, and it's some really good. Matter of fact, I'll just tell you, I'm not affiliating anything, but Rav, I like Rav stuff, RAV. Um, I don't have any association with them or anything, but I use their stuff and I like it. Stuff works well. You can get a pack for like $50 or less, and it'll charge an iPad, it'll charge a phone, it'll charge yada yada yada, right? So I would say definitely have a power pack, and you don't have to have a huge one if you don't want, but at least one that's going to give you a day or two of power. And then if you have the portable solar panels, you can just keep the pack charged up. Just keep in mind that like you're going to probably be looking. The prices I'm sure are much different now, but you're going to be looking between like maybe keep it small, a 16 volt to a 24. I mean 16 watt to 24 watt panel, which will run you anywhere between, let's just say, I don't want to give too many prices. I know they've changed, but let's just say $40 to $100, right? I know where I can get them for like $30, but let's just say $40 to $100, and now you have power. As long as you got sunlight, you have power. Or again, you charge up your pack. The whole thing with the pack and the panels will probably be about this big. You know what I mean? So it's like something you can have on you. You got power. You can have lights. You can have everything else that you need. All right, so that's something that should go inside of your bug out bag, as well as your food rations. I'm a big advocate of dehydrated food. is really good. Dehydrated vegetables, which just require a little water to bring them back. Even dehydrated fruit, although with most fruit, just you don't have to rehydrate it. But just keep in mind that anything that you eat that is dehydrated, your body will rehydrate it internally. So you will be pulling from your internal water to rehydrate it. So that's just something you want to keep in mind when you're like, I'm gonna pack a whole bunch of crackers, saltine crackers, and things like that. Um, you don't really want things that are really going to dehydrate you too much, right? So, so one of the things you also want to try to keep is an extra flashlight and some extra batteries inside of your bug out bag. Okay, and I know most of us we use our phones for flashlights, and that's cool. But you can have a little small. I keep a little in my bag because now you got LED lights. When I was younger, if you wanted a good light, it was like it was a weapon. But they have the little LED ones, the tiny ones that go on like your keychain, so that it's nothing to have them, and the batteries last for like 10 years. So you definitely want to have that. Get some little small LED ones. You don't need a big one because again, you want to travel light. You don't want to take up a lot of space. So little small, and I mean literally. If I have my keys, I will show you, because I keep several of them. But it's probably it's probably maybe that big, about that wide. It'll light up a whole area, right? So definitely keep extra flashlights in your bug out bag, extra batteries in your bug out bag. Plastic, okay. One of the important things you want to keep. Now, me, I like to keep plastic bags for several reasons, which I'm going to explain. But even plastic tarping is good, right? Because depending on your situation, how you're moving, where you're going, you may actually have to sleep on the ground. So if the ground is wet or anything like that, you want to have some plastic sheathing to put down or to put over, right? Very easy to give yourself cover with plastic, right? But the other thing is the plastic bags. I'm a big fan of because sometimes you see something you want real quick. It could be some herbs. You may be out. You might see some ground mustard on the ground or some cabbage, and you're like, you know what? Let me grab this up real quick. It could be in an abandoned, it could be an abandoned garden. You can get some herbs really quick or some poke leaves or something like that. Put them in your bag and keep pushing. So it's good to have plastic bags because they compress so small. But also, depending on the situation that you're in and how you're moving, you may not want to leave your DNA laying around. So let's say if you have to do a number two, you could. I mean, we're talking about survival now, so it's not all pristine and pretty, but you can do a number two inside of a plastic bag and then hide it. Or I guess you could use it as a projectile weapon depending on your situation. But anyway, you can hide it, right? Or whatever, or just again, it may be the environment. Maybe you're trapped indoors somewhere and you just don't want to be going on the floor like they were unfortunately having to do in that Superdome when Katrina happened. They would just have to go right there. And you got to realize too the way that the human mind works. When a person starts to feel their situation is hopeless, they'll just be like, "Oh, the heck with it," and it'll just be going on the floor and whatever. Especially if they feel like there hasn't been an outreach, a compassionate outreach towards them. They'll start just feeling like they'll lose that human dignity and just start doing anything. All right. So that's something that you want to keep. Also, the reason I like plastic bags is you can use them to line your shoes. So let's say if you're walking through an area that's muddy or that's wet, you can put your feet inside the plastic bags and then put those into the shoes, and then at least your feet will stay dry, which is very important in a survival situation, is to stay dry because you know for several reasons. One, for morale reasons, but also just to keep sickness off of you. I'm not going to go into a long explanation of why it's important to stay dry. I'm trying to, you notice I'm speaking quickly, but hopefully I don't need to explain that too much why you should want to stay dry. So that also goes to your gear. You want to have a waterproof, what we call windbreaker. There may be another term for it, but I'm from the breakdance era, so so we call them windbreaker. Um, so you want to have a waterproof windbreaker, and in your bug out bag, don't pack any shorts. I know it may be tempting, especially even if you're in like in a, let's say Florida or Cali, and your place is pretty much always hot. You might be kind of tempted to. I'll get to you, Obadiah, and I know where you are, Obadiah. So I'll get to you. To that question, it may be tempted like, okay, I'm gonna put some sock. I mean, I'm sorry, some shorts because it's no. Always pack pants. Always pack pants, even if they're and be careful even with the windbreaker material because they make that noise when you're walking. Now that's just me personally. I'm giving you my personal stuff. I'm all me for me. Stealth is important. Again, you never know what situation you might be in where you don't need to be making a lot of noise when you're moving around. Um, but pack pants, and what you want to pack is layers. So you can have several t-shirts, several pairs of underwear, of course, a couple of pairs of socks. Very important, even more than the underwear. Um, if you're a guy like me, I'm commando most of the time. So underwear not that big a deal, but socks are a huge issue, right? Because again, if you get your feet wet, you need to be able to change into some dry socks. And I may say, okay, well, I just won't put socks on. But if you're walking 10 miles or 15 miles or 20 or 30 miles, you need to be able to have comfortable footwear, and your feet are extremely important. You can't be walking and getting blisters and things like that and exposing yourself to possible infection. All right. So that's an important piece right there in terms of like just your footwear, your underwear, and layers. Maybe tempting to like stuff a big coat in there or something. Like, don't do it. It's always better to dress in layers because if you start getting warm, um, I lost my chat window. Sorry. Okay, there's some questions. I'll get to you guys in a second. But if you start getting warm, then you can remove a layer, which is better than sweating. If you sweat and then it gets cooler at night, you run the risk of hypothermia. So again, it goes back to why you don't want to get wet. All right. So you definitely don't want to be out sweating. All right. I'm going to answer some of these questions. I'm going to get back to it. Um, I thought I saw some question marks. Okay. Hoodoo Occultism says, do you know any toxic plants for protection? Leave that stuff alone. Now, I don't know if you're talking about from a ritual perspective or if you're talking about throwing plants in people's face. Either way, leave that alone. Like, just let's stick to the practical stuff. Um, you want to protect yourself, get yourself a knife, and get yourself a knife with a sheath, or you can use again your multi-purpose knife. Very important to get a knife with a sheath because you don't want to be reaching in your bag or anything like that. Because I know some of you women might be like, "Well, I got a good knife right in the kitchen. I paid a lot of money for this Jinsu knife," and you just grab it. You want to make sure that you have a knife that you're not cutting yourself or anything like that when you go to get it. All right. Um, So we're gonna skip past. So anybody who's gonna, and I'm not saying that's what you were asking. I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna say it. Um, okay. But anybody who's gonna ask wants to ask me about rituals and things like that skip it. I'm not giving. I'm not. I'm not. We're not doing that. All right. This you gotta. And I'm not saying you were. So I don't want you to think I'm getting on you. I'm just using it as an opportunity. So I don't want you to think I'm talking about you. The reason why a lot of y'all are in this state and are unprepared because you've been listening to fake teachers who have no prophetic vision and who have no real calling for leadership from Oludumare. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to try not to make it about that. But they give you garbage information and you can't tell the difference between rain that's coming from the sky and some filthy water that they pulled up out of the sewage. And they've been telling you to drink sewage water all this time. And they have no real answers for you right now other than some stupidness. Coronavirus, well, corona means crown. And if you think about it, the crown, and then they took the corona as the form of lightning. So shut that. Get to these practicals. Get your bug out bag. All right? That's coming from the priest. So you would think the priest would be telling you that stuff. I'm not. I'm giving you the practical things because the creator has given you intelligence. Use it. That's your greatest weapon. That's your greatest spiritual weapon is your ability to create healthy and beneficial spirits around you through the projection of the electromagnetic energy of your thought matter. Thoughts create spirits. Dumb thoughts create dumb spirits. All right. So anyway, I'm not going to get into all of that. But like I said, if anybody is talking the spookism right now, you need to be stepping away from them. They're just going to drag you further and further and further into their stupidity and into their nonsense. Anybody's like, yeah, just pour a little of this anointing oil or just light this candle. I can't tell you enough. And again, some of you are in this situation. I'm not going to say it, but you didn't listen. Some of you who've been reaching out to me, yeah, brother, I told you what to do already. I've been telling you what to do. I've been telling you about homeschooling. I've been telling you about getting out of the cities. I've been telling you about having bug out locations. I've been telling you about preparing. I've been telling you this. My friends know he's been on this since the 80s. I thought I was Rambo back in the days. It's just to give you an idea. I probably know every line to that movie. That and Red Dawn. I know every line. Like I could enact the whole movies, both of them from beginning to end. Red Dawn and Rambo. All right, and No Blade of Grass. You want some good survivalist movies? No Blade of Grass. Um, um, Countdown to Zero. You know, I got movies going back to the 50s. Quartermain in the Pit. These are all great survivalist movies. But anyway, we're not talking about that. So the question was, I'm sorry, I got off on something else. We're going the plant thing. I'm not sure what you mean, but we're not doing any hoodoo at this point to survive. We got to bring it up a notch. And I'm not saying yes and no. Obadiah, you said if you're in the tri-state area, do you feel it's better to go north or south? It depends on what you want to do. To be honest, Obadiah, Cuomo is locking down New York, right? I know where you are, right? So I won't say where you are. But I know where you're at. Cuomo is locking down New York. So you could always go to upstate New York. Upstate New York has so much farmland, and then you're right next to Canada. You know, if you could try to get into Canada, I know Canada has blocked their border, but you know what I'm saying. So from upstate, you're in a great place in terms of like wildlife, in terms of open land. You know, the only problem is that it gets extremely cold there. So depending on how long you're going to be there, you have to be set up and accommodated to cut some wood up and to be in an environment like you may not be able to. I mean, well, technically you could stay in a tent, but if you're not ready that if you're not prepared for that kind of life, it could be problematic. Also, there's some very polarized communities in upstate New York. You know, again, upstate is it's where all the prisons are. So most of the people who live up in those areas, they work in the prisons. So there's already a certain kind of camaraderie there among the COs and the case managers and everything. Um, I'm gonna let the helicopter go. Okay, um, so that's going north for you, right? Connecticut is also an option, but again, you kind of got the same thing, the coldness. Uh, then you have like tri-state, and I know the tri-state you're talking about: New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. You could go south. You could go to South Jersey, which similar situation because the weather is it's not as cold as Jersey, but I mean, I'm sorry, as New York, but New Jersey, New Jersey has got those state troopers. New Jersey's got some really vicious laws and things like that. A lot of good old boys. New Jersey has a really deep and entrenched history with the Klan. So you got a lot of people who are you got a lot of sick people who are like really excited about a collapse of government and a collapse in society, and are kind of just waiting for that. So you want to be mindful of that. But if I had to pick between the two, if I was going to go to upstate New York, if I was going to go to South Jersey, let's just say if it was Jersey, speaking of, I would go to Jersey. But truthfully, from Jersey, you so close to Pennsylvania, I would go west. Go inward. In times of doubt, go in and go up. Okay, that's all you need to know. In times of doubt, go in and up. All right, so go away from the shorelines and go up in the mountains. Okay, so with that being said, um, we'll talk about handguns and ammo in a second, hoodoo occultism. So with that being said, I if I was in a tri-state, I would slide into Pennsylvania because from Pennsylvania you can get into the middle of the country, and Pennsylvania has so many nooks and crannies because the Amish out there. I mean, they got meth issues. You know, meth is big out there, but meth heads are pretty friendly. You know, that's a whole nother conversation, the opioid epidemic and how this relates to the opioid epidemic. Another time though. But so yeah, that's what I would suggest, Obadiah. If you're not in New York right now, don't go to New York. You don't know what the borders are going to be like, and unless you're going up, well, anyway you go into New York, you got to go over a bridge, whether it's the Tappan Zee or the George Washington, or you go through a tunnel. You're going to have to pretty much go over some water, and it's very easy for them to lock those down. So you could go to New York, and unless you keep going up north and then go west, you could get stuck in New York. So that would be my recommendation there. Um, I'm gonna answer a couple more before I get back to what I was saying. Is there any type of soap to pack in the bug out bag? Yeah, you know, I'm a huge fan of wet wipes, flushable wet wipes, right? So I keep flushable wet wipes because you can use them for so many different things. I'm kind of like Denzel Washington in Book of Eli. Like I've used KFC wet wipes to do my whole thing. I definitely have washed with wet wipes on the road and felt great afterwards. Like I was thoroughly clean. So I try to keep things compressed. So I would say like wet wipes are great. Small things of soap, travel size soap is fine too, but you want something that lathers a lot. You know. So for me, I give you some more of my stuff. Um, I take hotel shampoos. And I think those make great soap substitutes because they're small and they lather a lot. The one thing that you want to be mindful of though is getting things that are unscented, because again, depending on the environment that you're in, I'll give you a great example. I used to do years ago. I used to do personal security, right? It's like bodyguard work, you guys might know. And I used to work with this guy. Yeah, well, he was an older head. I guess he was like with the age I am now, but real cool guy. He was in the Vietnam War, and he never talked to anybody. Like he was just always like he was on it back then, like the survival. He was always to himself, but for some reason he would just talk to me all the time, and I didn't. I would just listen. I didn't talk much, but I was like the only one he would rock with. So he used to tell me all these stories of how to survive, like how to walk through the woods without leaving trails. And he learned this from a Vietnamese brother when he was over there. It was a guy who was working with the American soldiers because the Viet Cong had killed his family, and he used to fight with a bow and arrow, and he would be there with them, right? So this this guy, I don't want to say his name. Well, his name was Eddie. You never gonna know him. So Eddie, you won't find him. But so Eddie used to tell me like he used to tell him all the time like when you wash, don't use soap because one of the ways that we sneak around you guys all the time is because we could smell you coming a mile away from the perfume in your soaps. So that was something that always stuck with me. Either not using soap, using very little, or using unscented soap. So that way you're not necessarily putting off an alarm that I'm here. All right. So that's in terms of soap that you can look at. Um, and I'm also a huge fan of hand sanitizer. So usually I will forego soap for hand sanitizer, and I will use the hand sanitizer like soap because again, if there's any kind of issues, ticks and things like that, you're a little quicker to help get that stuff off of you. All right. Um, so, I'll, would you recommend salt or rubbing alcohol for potential cut, scrapes, and disinfect? Hand sanitizer takes you right there again. Um, but you can also, what I would recommend is actually to put in your bug out bag is a first aid kit. All right, and you can get like the cheap, like a $10 first aid kit from the store, and it will do what you need to do in terms of band aids and things like that. Again, remember you're not living out of your bug out bag. It's just for a couple of days until you get to, hopefully you have a bug out location, which we're gonna get to in a second. All right. So, yes, I did say, Hassan, that you should stay near rivers if possible, but just also know that other people may be staying near rivers, which brings us to what Hoodoo Occultism asked about what about packing a handgun and ammo? Okay, so you should have a gun. Everybody should have a gun. You should have been had a gun. Now, s- some of us cannot register firearms. Again, I'm give some of my own personal stuff. I can't own a registered firearm. All right. So if you're a person that has certain kind of felonies in your past, or you're still on probation, you have violent crime, you have violent felonies, things like that, and depending on the state that you live in, you will not be able to register a handgun. Now, here's the thing though, a lot of states over a certain period of time, usually it's like 10 years, you can actually register a carry and conceal. You can get a carry and conceal permit. Um, and some states require governor clemency. All right. But that sounds like a big deal. It's not really that big a deal. It just depends on the state you're in. Like New York is very difficult to own a registered firearm. So like the South, yeah, it's no big deal. Everybody, even children, walk around with guns. In New York and places like that, it's hard. So you might want to consider that even in terms of like where you situate yourself, right? What are the gun laws like? Gun laws in places like Kentucky and Arkansas, West Virginia. West Virginia, you get a carry permit like that. And carry permits are really, it's carry and conceal is the one, because by law you can carry a firearm. If it's in plain view, this that you're allowed to do that. But I don't want to get into that too much, because in a survival situation, it's not just about what's legal, especially when you have a national state of emergency and the Constitution is suspended anyway. Not that it's not all the time, whole nother conversation. But you want to be smart. You want to be intelligent. So as far as guns and ammo, my suggestion first, for those of you who may be in a situation um, where you want to have a registered firearm and can't have one, if you want to have a registered firearm, if your spouse, if they can get a carry permit, then as long as it's one in the family. So that's kind of my thing. So if some of you women have felonies or violent felonies, CO2 BB guns, you're just gonna piss people off, Empress T. Okay. Um, if you're gonna try to go that route, you better off with a pellet gun. And even then, you could just really be pissing people off. They're really good for hunting. If you want to hunt small game, use a pellet gun. But for the most part, you're gonna just piss people off. All right. Um, so yeah, so in a situation like that, if some of you females, you have violent felonies in your past, and things like that, then you might want to see if your husband, if he can actually get the permit. You have something in the house. And again, that's if you want to have a registered firearm. One thing to consider is that once you register at your local precinct, if something were to happen and they wanted to collect the firearms of the people around you, they are, you know, like I don't have to keep going with that one. All right. So, me, I don't own any guns. I don't. I ain't got no guns. I have nothing. All right. I don't even have a knife longer than 3 inches. You know. So, you know. But yeah. So that's something as far as guns and ammo. If you can carry that, yeah, definitely have that with you. Um, Now, the type of guns we could get into at another time, depending on if you're male or female, if you have experience shooting and things like that. A lot of survivalists, they um, they ask questions about, or not questions. I'm sorry. They will recommend like 380s and stuff to women because they're smaller. I'm not a big fan of the 380 because they just jam too much. You know, they just jam too much. You're better off getting a small revolver, or just kick it up to a nine. You know what I mean? But if you want to go that route, this is not a talk about guns, but I'm not a huge 380 fan. If I were to own a firearm, I've had 380s in the past when I did own firearms, and I've been in some situations where I could have gotten really hurt because of a jamming 380. You know, so yeah, so I would just say that. But you can go to like a gun range and say what you want. Right now, you ain't gonna get nothing. You're not gonna get anything right now. So you better off again just a good. No, 22 is not too weak. No, 22 is not too weak at all. Here's the thing when it comes to weapons. Let me just say this. I'm gonna say two things, and we're gonna get back to the bug out bag. But I said I would answer your questions. If you have to use your weapon, depending on the situation, chances are you already did something wrong, right? So if the person is coming to your home and you are now in the house having a shootout, whether you got a 45, 22, 9 millimeter, or an assault rifle, it doesn't really matter because if your mind is really on preparedness, you're setting up your property and your home in a way where people, they're gonna be deterred at the gate. They're gonna know like, no, don't come here. Don't whatever you're thinking about doing, don't come here to do it, right? So that's something you want to think about. A lot of people talk about, they stack a lot of guns in their home and thing like that, and by then it's too late. But if you're having shootouts on your property and stuff like that, it's too late. All right, so that's just something to think of. A dog is great, man. A dog is, or two dogs, excellent protection. Whether you have them in the house, you have them in the yard, or if you're just walking the streets with them, I'm gonna tell you this: 9 times out of 10, I'd rather walk with two vicious dogs than with a gun. It's just a better way to go. But as far as like, is a certain gun too small? No, because the truth is, again, in most situations, once you brandish the weapon, people will think twice about what it is that they want to do. I tell you a situation that happened to me once. I was getting ready to get into a situation with someone where I was gonna hurt him, and right when I was getting ready to raise, and he was there with like his friends, we'll say, and I was like, I don't care because, and I said it out loud, like nobody here can beat me. So I'm getting ready to go and handle him, and then his friend comes to the side of me because I'm younger back then, but I'm all full of bravado, and his friend comes and puts a knife on the side of my eye right here, you know, and was like, like, let's go, what? And I immediately slowed things down in my mind, right? Because just him brandishing the weapon, it was like, you start thinking, you start thinking like, how important, how important is this situation? How important um, really is this? So a lot of times just by having the weapon, and I'm not saying if you're gonna pull something, be ready to use it, but a lot of times having it will kind of change the dynamics of the situation. So you don't need to, like the question you asked, like, oh, if I have a 22, am I not safe? As opposed to if I'm running around with a 40 cal, nah. Sometimes just by pulling out the weapon, a person will kind of think. So like I said, when he put the blade on the side, and it was a small blade because I'm telling some of my stuff. I was in jail at the time. So it was just a little piece of metal he had. But once he did that, and I'm still thinking like, okay, this is how I'm gonna disarm him. Then I'm gonna go to here. But then I'm also thinking like, how many of the rest of them have bangers too? They might all have hawks, and I'm here by myself. So that slowed the situation up to the point I didn't put my hands on him, right? So you kind of want to think about that sometimes too. Don't be too stressed about what, but just like your bug out bag, you don't have to have the perfect bug out bag. Just start somewhere, right? Um, but don't just be pulling weapons on people. Don't just do that, and don't get starter pistols and stuff like that. I had a friend years ago. He used to run around with the starter pistol, and I thought it was a real gun until uh, I'm telling some of my stuff now, but we had gotten locked up, and the cop was like, Andy's got a starter pistol. I was like, starter pistol. Now I was relieved because we didn't get caught with a gun, but at the same time, now I'm like, all them different situations we were in, and that wasn't even a real gun. This is a long time ago when I was young, and before I was Chief Yu. Yeah. All right. Um, so now, let's get back to what we're talking about. Guns and ammo, yeah, absolutely. I think there might have been some other things in there. If I'm missing it, please blame it on my head and not my heart. Um, yeah, but yeah, as far as weapons, man, men, your wives should be able to shoot, and your older son should be able to shoot. Everybody should at least know how to shoot. They don't have to have their own pistols, but they should know how to handle a pistol and how to respect one, which is really really more important than anything. Always understand that young boys, they're gonna have a fascination with guns. That's just how we are, you know. So they need to be taught that respect for those firearms early on. But again, bug out bag, right? So you got your food, you got your water, maps. I know you're so used to going to your phone and GPSing and looking things up, but again, in certain type of situations, it could be an EMP strike and electromagnetic pulse, and your phone is not working, or the towers are down, or they hit a switch and say, no, we don't want them communicating. And I want you to think about now, if you can visualize, if you couldn't access the internet right now, or you couldn't access high speed data or data period, how much would that change your world? And what I mean by that is, um, who would you not be able to get in touch with, right? Because your phones are not analog anymore. I think I had the last analog phone in New York, um, about 2 3 years ago. One of my phone lines in one of my places, I finally decided to switch over to digital. Maybe I shouldn't even did it, but um, it took forever. And I was like, why is this taking so long? They were like, because, sir, you're on a copper line. I'm like, what? It was like, yeah, you're the only wire. There's a wire going into the building. You are still on a copper line. I've had that phone number for a very long time, right? So it took, like, they had to do all kind of magic to get it off the physical copper line and onto a digital one. But again, you want to think about, yeah, well, what if the internet goes down? Even for my family members or loved ones that are not that far away, you want to consider that, right? So you can get a walkie-talkie, which should be in your bug out bag. Now, for me, I keep them in a charging station, right? So you can buy some stations where they'll charge six, and then some will come with like two walkies with it, or three walkies with it, and then you could just add on to it. You can fill up. You can fill up. So if you want to have, you might have a larger family, whatever. You might want to have 4 or 5 different walkie-talkies, and they have a lot of them that will have like a 20-mile range. Which is pretty good if you're not able to use your cell phone, or for whatever reason you might have to toss your cell phone, and whatnot. Those are like cheap, they're inexpensive, so that answers your question. Holistic healing works. Why walkie talkies? They're cheap, and you can get it all different kind. Again, you get the long range. Now, here's another thing you want to have in your bug out bag: whistles. Every member of the family should have a whistle, and every family should have a code or a set of codes that you use with those whistles. So if I hear three sharp things, that means something. If I hear two, that means something else. If I hear, one and then two, you work out the math however you want to do it. What those noises, or what those whistles actually mean. You don't want to just be shouting out like, I can't remember the combination to the safe. Like, you don't need to be telling people that. So you can, whistles are very good to have. But like I said, also maps, maps of your local area. Of course, you should always be running routines with your children and with your family, where you're learning how to move around in your local area, or how to get to the. For me, it's always, how do I get to the woods? How do I get to the woods? So you definitely want to have things like maps. National maps are great to have as well. Just to get a sense of of the main roads and things like that. All right. So again, I can't go through the whole list again, but we we talked about the different kind of foods that you would have. You would definitely have some food in your bug out bag. You definitely have some maps in your bug out bag. You definitely have some plastic in your bug out bag. Some tarps, plastic tarps. You can get those from like the dollar store, the cheap little ones that you use for painting, and they come in different thicknesses, obviously. But you can have those in you. And I'm giving you like an easy start for your bug out bag because this stuff can get expensive. Like you could, it can well run tens and $20,000. I see some people get pallets of this and pallets of that, and you can never be over prepared. So I'm not criticizing that, but I'm saying right now, you're in a situation where you're not going to run up into your store. I don't care where you're at, and you're not going to buy 2 months worth of water, right? So that's just not going to happen right now, or certain things may be overpriced. So if for any reason, if your local government tomorrow said, okay, we're doing a shutdown, and anybody caught outside, because what happens if you're caught outside? We haven't gotten to that part yet, you know, or like in San Francisco, they did a lockdown, but San Francisco has a huge homeless population. So where are they locking down at? Tell them go back inside your tent. Don't come out your tent. Stay under the bridge. Or will they round them up and bring them to a work camp? We're not going to do conspiracy theories. All right. Yeah. We're not going to do that. So, again, if you have to move quickly, the information I'm giving you right now is like, okay, I got to bug out or I got to leave. I got to evacuate. What are the things that I can get right now? So again, you want to have those things that I mentioned, the maps. You also, I would advise you all to get little small alcohol stoves. You can get those out of camping goods supplies. I've seen them in dollar stores again. And let me add this. Like I told you, thrift stores are an excellent resource. Dollar stores are an excellent resource. I was in a dollar store the other day, and like there was water there, like gallons of water, no signs of saying to just take one, because most people don't think. If you go to even like, depending on the part of country, and you may have Wawa or 7-Eleven or Quick Check, but all of these 24-hour spots that you can go off the highway stuff, they all have water. Now they're more, so whereas the supermarket it may be $1 per gallon, in those places it's like $1.89, $1.99, but it's there, right? Um, so I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember where I was. Um, I don't remember, so I'm just gonna skip past to the next thing. I don't remember where I was. So another thing that you want to keep in your supply is you want to keep a tent. Oh, I was saying a tarp. That's what it was, a tarp, plastic tarp. Right. So the thing I wanted to bounce off with you with the tarp, ponchos. Right. So I'm a big fan of rain ponchos, and the reason why I'm a big fan of rain ponchos, and this goes to something I said earlier, where you could play with it. Remember when I said earlier, don't get tactical bags because they give away the fact that either you might be military or you might be prepared. You know, um, well, if you get a rain poncho, a lot of times you can put the poncho, you put it on, and you can put it over the back of your backpack, right? So in that sense, you're covering everything you have, right? So I'm a big fan of rain ponchos for survivalism, and plus because they fold up really small, and you can also use them for shelter. So let's say if you get somewhere, you could use the plastic, you could use the rain poncho, either one. But if you get somewhere, you can set up like between two trees, and you can basically just sorry, I got a lot of big wasp and stuff showing me a lot of love. But you can basically use the poncho that you were wearing, and you can stretch it out overhead and use it for shelter. Okay, so so for me, I like ponchos a lot because I could use them in place of a tarp, and I can use them also to conceal, like my backpack or whatever. For ponchos, I'm a big fan of green or brown, right? Because again, for the stealth. Book bags, gray, beige, colors that again are gonna bounce off a lot of sunlight, not get too hot, things like that. But then at the same time, I can blend and I look like, like just a regular guy moving around and not necessarily somebody who is ready to tough it out for the next 2 3 months in the woods. I don't want to look like that, right? Um, so that's the deal with that. And then I was saying alcohol stoves before, excuse me, which are just very small. They're very small stoves, and you can get those out of a lot of different places. Those are good to have one or two of those with you if you need to create a fire, you need to heat up some water or cook some food or something really quick. And again, if you're moving with your family, then it might be like you might have three or four of those, right? So you'll be able to kind of hold yourself over without creating a whole lot of smoke and a whole lot of bright fire for people to come in and see what you're doing. All right, so those are some of the things you would have in your bug out bag. Like I said, rainproof poncho, sunglasses, very important to have in your bug out bag. If you are on any prescription medication, or and I'm an advocate of not only having prescription medication inside of your bug out bag, but even non-prescription medication. Now, let me give you some clarity on that one too. As I don't eat meat, I also don't take any drugs, right? So aspirins and ibuprofen, Advil. I don't know drugs well. I only know like three of them. I know there's aspirin, ibuprofen, Advil, Tylenol. I don't know anymore. I think there's something for Robitussin. Yeah, that's all I know. All right, so you could tell I'm not in that world. I don't really know any drugs and stuff. I can tell you some herbs, but I don't know too many drugs. But I have some. I have some in my bug out bag as well as some cigarettes. And the reason being, I don't smoke cigarettes. These are great things to trade in an emergency situation. These are great things that you could trade for other things, right? Whether it be over the counter medicine or prescription medicine. Now, if you have certain prescriptions, keep those things with you, right? And again, some things have an expiration date. Periodically, you should be going through your bug out bag anyway to re up on certain things. So you would do that then. But also some people, they're on certain diabetes medicine and stuff like that, which is going to be a whole nother kind of issue, going forward. But we'll deal with the little bit that we're dealing with now, right? So yeah, your medicines you want to have, sunglasses, right? So of course another pair of prescription glasses. They don't have to be stylish. In fact, I'm a fan of having goggles in your bug out bag, right? So prescription goggles, because you never know the situation that you're in. You don't want to be dropping your glasses and stuff like that and not being able to see. So you get some goggles. It's not really about styling per se, right? And if you can do prescription sunglasses, that's also a very good move. The reason being is because depending on the environment that you might be in, let's say for instance, like brother Obadiah, you asked earlier about bugging out. Like let's say if you bug out and you are in upstate New York, or you're in your Montanas, or just anywhere where it snows, right? Um, when you're depending on the situation that you're in, it could be very bright, the snow, and it could be very fatiguing on the eyes. So one of the key things, even though you're packing essentials in your bug out bag, you want to make sure that you're packing for comfort. You want to make sure that you're packing for comfort, because those things, when you're uncomfortable, my shoes hurt, I'm squinting, I'm kind of blind. I didn't pack anything for, like, if you're a person like me, you got big lips, and you want to pack some so your lips are not chapped and split and things like that, which will now create a certain discomfort and will kind of confuse the thinking. One of the things I want you to keep in mind is that when you're bugging out, chances are there's already a level of panic. I mean, think about the panic that's happening right now, and the things that people are getting they don't even need right now, but they're panicking like they do need them. Like, okay, let's say if you do have to shelter in, do you think that the water's going to get turned off for any reason right now? It's not. The water's not going to be off anytime soon. We'll get into that in a minute, but you know, so just think about you're in a situation, your house is on fire, there's a flood, you got to move, there's martial law, civil unrest. Think about the panic your mind is already going to be in. So you want your bag to be set up in a way, for one, that it's easy to get to everything, and there's a certain level of comfort that you're immediately providing for yourself, and especially if you have children, right? And I'm gonna give you an example. Some of you guys have children who um, you have initiated sugar addictions inside of them. Your children are addicts because of you. You strung them out. So in your bug out bag, you already know you're gonna have to have some type of sugar treat, because you don't want a child, you moving and you got a young child and they're miserable and I don't want, and they making noise and stuff like that. Just here, just shove this, these gummy worms in his mouth. Hey, you know, because you don't already got them strung out. So I know that sounds crazy, but you don't want to use a preparedness situation to now be dealing with your vices. I got to be honest with you. If you have a addiction or a nicotine addiction, things like that, you want to make sure that you're handling some of those things now, right? That's extremely important. Um, I would say, so again, be mindful of what you're packing. Now, let me just also say that with that, if you have a caffeine addiction or a nicotine addiction, take care of it now, right? Prepare in times for war, in times of peace. So you don't want to be tethered to anything. If you're on medication, try to tether yourself off of the medication. If you know you need to eat right, you need to get more rest, you need to drink more water in order to get yourself off the pills that the doctor is giving you, just do that, because those things will localize you. Well, I can't go too far. I can't go too deep in the woods with you guys because I got to get my stuff or this or that. So for the as best you can. Again, and we're talking about a bug out situation where you got to boogie, right? Um, so again, that's dealing with some of those things and some of the vices, right, for your bug out bag. And it's more that you would put in the bag. I don't, but I'm, for the sake of time, I want to get to some of the other things that you need to keep in mind of. But at least have, like, if for some of you who have family, sit down, have a conversation. Like, maybe show this video. Say, all right, well, Chief was talking about this. Like, what do we have? Maybe you got book bags now. And let me say this. You should have a bug out bag in all of your vehicles. I would even suggest, for those of you who are still at work, and even because once this is over, it's not over. What did I tell you at the beginning of the year? It's gonna get worse. Things progressively get worse. So now the sun comes out. I'm waiting for this. Okay. So now I can't even see your comments. But maybe I could see them over here. But is it coming? Is it staying out? Well, I'm thankful for the little bit I got. That felt good. So yeah, you should have a small bug out bag in your car. You don't have to have the full set that you would have at the house, but you should have your essentials in your car. Again, copies of your ID. And when I say copies of your ID, I'm also talking about copies of birth certificates, copies of death certificates, right? Because it may be a situation, let's say you have an elder and you're on a death certificate or whatever, and they have land somewhere, and you're bugging out to that land. You haven't been in a long time, and you need to be able to prove relation. I don't have the original death certificate. I don't have my original birth certificate. I have these copies. With that being said, and I'm sure this is gonna, once you put things on YouTube and stuff, they're there forever. So this is gonna change. Um, but I want you to think about um, what I'm saying just in terms of concept. The technology will probably change over the years, but for now, the best way I would say is to keep flash drives of all of your important flash drive copies of all of your important documentation. Now, the reason I'm saying I know that's going to change because technology changes. It may be just you keep a chip of your document, that implanted chip. So maybe that might be why you're on the run because you won't take the chip. That could be a part of the whole reason why you're having to bug out. But yeah, in any event, um, so yeah, you want to keep copies of all your important stuff, not just paper copy. You want that, but even a flash drive. You don't know what the electrical situation will be. Maybe someone can't plug it in, but eventually, maybe. And on that flash drive, not only do you want to have all of your critical documentation for you and your family and stuff like that, but also usernames, passwords. You can put that in an encrypted file with a password. But for all your different stuff, your bank account, things like that, bank account numbers, username and passwords to log in, things like that. Maybe if you have a safe at home, combinations, things like that. That should be in the bug out bag as well on a drive. Okay, as well as like emergency contact numbers. That goes without saying. You should have that on you at all times, right? Um, so now let's get into a scenario, and there's more things you can add to the bag. Again, like I said, I'm sparking the conversation willfully, and you will come up with more things. But remember, keep it light and keep it to essentials. Keep it to essentials. That's so important. Like, you don't have to have like your specialty items, and I like my keep it to the essentials. If you can. You don't need to pack up your entire shrine and all your spiritual books. I need my metaphysical books. No, you don't. You don't need your metaphysical books. Um, uh, and most of that stuff you can store digitally on that flash drive. If there's certain holy books that you want to make sure you have access to, put them on a flash drive, right? Um, it. Let me not say that. I'm about to say something funny. Anyway, let's get back to what we were saying. So now let's say the situation is such where you can't bug out, or it doesn't make sense, and you have to bunker in, and you have to kind of make things happen where you are. And matter of fact, before we go to the next thing, let me get to your next. If there's any other questions, and then I'll go to your next thing. Give me a second. I just need to scan real quick. I'm sorry. Um, Radios are good, Chief. Yes, you should have one now. I've been doing ham radios for years. Have one now. Um, and just listen to the shortwave. You know, I don't know if new radios can do that, but when I was younger, radios had a dial, and you could tune into the shortwave stations. I don't know. It was, we talking about back in the days, man. Stuff wasn't stuff. We didn't have as much stuff to do, so it's different. You might just sitting there going through the dial and hearing someone like that was cool, but whatever. Uh, but yeah, get used to like engaging with that type of thing now. Um, Let me see. Dandelion root for coffee replacement. Okay, you're talking about the herb, sure. And this is again why I said I'm a fan of like dates mixed with peanut butter, stuff like that. Dried dates, they last forever. The peanut butter lasts forever. You get your sugar fix, you get your carbs, and you get your protein right there. Right? But again, everybody is different. Some of you may want that beef jerky. Like I said, a lot of survivalists will suggest beef jerky to get the protein from the meat. That's if that's your thing. I don't need the meat, but and beef jerky's got like so much. um I don't even know if it could be classified as meat. You know what I'm saying? By the time they cook that stuff down with ammonia, it's got so much ammonia in it, and then dyes, and so I don't know, but I'm not gonna disparage, to each their own, if that's what you want to use. Um, Travel by boat, yeah, I'm a huge advocate of getting your. I mean, you don't. Well, depending on your state, like where I'm at, uh, I worked to get my boat endorsement. I actually took some classes, but you actually don't need it to pilot a boat, right? So I really just worked on it because I wanted to take the classes. It was an excuse to take the classes, but to pilot a boat, you don't really. It's not like a plane, but you can just get in a boat and go. you know but certain endorsements allow you to go in certain areas, with your boat, that you wouldn't be able to. But in the survival situation, I don't think anybody's really gonna care. But again, the survival situation is relative too. Survival situation could be you just got into a situation and you need some time to think. It might be an OJ situation. You riding down the highway, I got to think. So there's all kind of different forms of survival situations. Um, right. So all right. I don't think there's questions. If there are more, I'm sorry. Tents are good and portable stoves. Yeah, I think I specified that. And if I didn't say it before, you should have tents you have these little portable tents that you can utilize. That should be in your bug out bag. But again, if you have plastic tarp and you have a poncho, you pretty much have your tent, right? But if you have some space, you can get those little small portable tents. They're just shelters, and you basically can just put them up on a stick that you find, or you would use like a like line, which you could basically use like laundry line or clothing line, and you would basically tie one to one tree and one to another tree, and then just put it over it, and now you have your shelter. Okay, so keep it simple. You know, what I mean, you don't need to be out there making a tent. Now, as far as like if you have space for it, a great multi purpose tool that I would suggest that you bring with you is a machete. A machete is like you can do anything with a machete. You can farm with the machete. You could protect yourself with the machete, of course, but you can cut down trees with the machete. You know, machetes are very durable and they really don't break, and they're not expensive, and they're very easy to sharpen as well. So I would suggest, you know, a machete is a great tool, and also sometimes it's good to keep people up off up off of you. You know, I can tell you some stories about machetes, but machetes have held me down seriously in the past from incurring bodily harm. So, machete. All right. So now, let's get to if you got to stay indoors, right? If you can't go, now you can't leave, which is situation for some of you right now, I'm sure, right? Um, so you would have all the things that I just mentioned still. Oh, also your bug out bag. You should have a sleeping bag. I'm sorry, I didn't mention sleeping bags. Like I said, I'm moving fast. But there should be a sleeping bag. Me, I'm a big fan of wool blankets. One wool blanket will get you through just about anything. You know, um, wool blankets are very effective. But sleeping bags are awesome too because, like, especially if you have small children, one sleeping bag, you put both of them in a sleeping bag, and their body heat will keep each other warm. They're good. All right. So sleeping bags are awesome. You know. But anyway, and just remember, like, if you're bugging out and you're sleeping outside, you want to find as many opportunities as you can to stay off the ground because the ground acts as an absorptive, it's an insulator. So even if you're just 1 inch off the ground, or if you can put down like some moss or get some leaves, like a lot of leaves, and put them down, it will keep your body warmer because literally the earth absorbs the heat from your body, right? So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. If you can find a deck or a porch to sleep on, you're doing much better, all right, than just sleeping on the straight ground. If you have a choice, if you have a choice, all right. So if you have to stay indoors, right? Yeah, tree cutting wire. Actually, that's another thing because I have that in my bag now. You have the wire hacksaws that you can use if you need to cut a tree. It's just basically like a wire, but it has blades, it has teeth on it, and you can use it to cut down trees and things like that. So that's another thing, and I actually do have that. I also have a small fishing kit, and I also have a utility knife that inside of it, it has a compass on the top. I'm a big fan of having compasses on you. Everything I'm saying, just write a note on it. You know, like I said, just blame it on this, and not that I don't mean to leave things out, but I'm just trying to move quickly. Um, but I have a knife. I got a nice knife that has a sheet. On the top of it is a compass, and inside I have other gear like plastic tarp as well as some fishing wire and hooks and things like that, which answers the question about fishing poles. You don't really need a pole. You just you can just have some nylon and a hook, and you can fish with that. Got that from Rambo. All right, that's when I got that knife. I've had that knife for, when it Rambo come out, like 1986, 85. That's when I got that knife. He had the same one, and he took it and he stuck it in the ground, and he knew which way. I was like, oh, I need that. I need that. So I have a couple of those actually, and I would suggest too, like you fathers, get your children utility knives. Like, teach them how to use them and things like that. You can get the small ones, but get them used to having things on them where they need to strip some wire or stuff like that, or cut through something, or get them used to kind of having that on them. It's never a bad idea. And women, you should have utility knives as well. Multi-purpose knives really come in handy more than just using a cork thing to get to pop wine bottles. All right, so now we're stuck indoors. We're stuck indoors. Here's the first thing I'm gonna tell you about being indoors. You wanna make sure that your environment is defendable. That's really important. Like, you might say, well, I'm home, I'm gonna grow some food in my garden. People gonna come take your food. They're gonna take your food. All right. So, um, as on a side note, with growing food, you might want to look into hydroponics. Where you can hydroponic setup you could set up anywhere. It could be in your basement, as usually it is. I'm gonna leave that out. I was gonna say something funny, but yeah, you can grow. You can with hydroponic, you can grow food anywhere. You know, so in your home, you should have a seed bank. A seed bank. You know, start collecting seeds. Seeds are not expensive at all. Yeah, fire starters too. I forgot Empress Tea. What I would tell you to get is to get a ferro rod for starting fire. But I already told you get the waterproof matches and get the lighters. But get a ferro rod. Ferro rod, you can hit it with your knife and it casts off sparks. See, I'm not trying to go into every detail. There's a lot. Like steel wool is another thing you should always have in your bug out bag because you can use it to start fires. I'm trying not to hit every little detail though. But just get a ferro rod. They're not expensive. They're very cheap. They last forever, and the sparks that come off of them are up to 2,500 degrees. That's how hot the sparks are that come off of your ferro rod. So you'll be able to start a fire easy with that, and especially if you have some steel wool. Another trick is Frito Lays. The ones that people eat. They're saturated with oil. You can use them like candles and like lighters. Um, I like to always keep a little bit of vegetable oil on me. I use that as well as candles. Candles and vegetable candle, and I'm using the candles for the wax and the vegetable oil because you can start things quicker that way, and it can hold the flame and while things are setting up. But I don't want to like get into all my tricks and stuff because it's gonna take too long. Um, Back to you gotta bug in, as we call it. You're at the house. Now, here's the first thing a lot of people are doing that you're wasting time with is the water thing. Everybody's buying spring water. You normally don't wash your nether regions with spring water. You get into the shower, you use tap water to clean your point, you know, and to clean everything. So you don't have to do this mad dash at the store right now. Oh, my battery's dying. Well, it is what it is. I'm gonna go into the battery dies. You don't have to do this mad dash to get all of this water right now, because the reality is fill your containers up with tap water. Now, right now, the water storage containers are very expensive on because they jacked up the prices. Whereas you could get like a 7 gallon container for like 11, $12 with free shipping. They're like $40, $50 now. So I would urge you to skip past that. Um, Again, there's water that you might use for drinking, and there's water that you may use for bathing. Truth be told, you could use your garbage can outside filled with a plastic bag and seal it up. Oh, your bug out bag should have duct tape. I was trying not to keep going back to every little thing. Duct tape is like manna from heaven. It's like WD-40. You can use it for everything. But duct tape is good for cuts. You might have a cut. It's good if you got a cut in your coat or something and you need to repair it. If somebody's getting a little sassy, you need to, nah. But duct tape is it's another good emergency thing to have. All right. Um, anyway, so let's get back to what we were saying. So having some form of wax is really good on to have on you, or some form of oil can help. That's extra stuff, But again, if you have it in the house, it's good to help you to start and maintain fires and things like that. Um, so water. So some type of water storage ability is really helpful. You can get plastic barrels, right? Again, if you're bugging in, because remember, again, a gallon of water per person. So if you have a family that has 5 people in it, that's 5 gallons of water you're going to use a day. Now, let's say, for instance, they're telling you you have to bug in for 2 months. That's 300 gallons of water, right? Now, yeah, if you buying a bunch of bottles, that's pretty difficult. But 300, 300 gallons of water is 6 barrels. And a lot of the barrels are stackable if you do it right. And you'll probably still be getting water during that time. Now, Buying water is good from now. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you the best reason to have the water now is for the bottles. Gotta be totally honest with you. It's just the bottles because you'll be able to collect water. And again, let's just say with this situation, your water's not gonna get turned off. And if you got to drink some tap water, just drink the tap water. You've done worse. You know what I mean? So it's not that big a deal. But I don't want to lessen any of your survival mechanisms or tactics. Um, but yeah, that's how much water you need a day. Use barrels. Use rain catchment. It's illegal in most places to catch rainwater. What are they gonna do? All right, fine me, whatever. Catch the rainwater. Catch the rainbow. So yeah, what you want to do is you want to catch that rainwater. You want to use barrel containment, which is really good for the water. As far as food, again, I think it's obvious. I think everybody knows at this point is about dry goods, and the reason I'm laughing because the dry goods are gone on the shelves right now. So I think everyone's hip to that one. I don't think I really need to go too deep into that one. Your canned foods are like, again, those are some of your strongest things you're gonna have, especially for you meat eaters. Your canned meats, because canned foods pretty much last forever. They just lose some of their flavor and things like that once you eat them past the suggested expiration. But they really don't expire. That's why they'll say best if eaten by. But you can keep rock. You can eat spam. From World War I. You'll be all right. It just won't taste that great. As our new people, though, we don't eat unclean animals. So I don't care if you're in a survival situation or not. You don't need to eat it. You're not going to need to eat it. And this is one of the reasons why I suggest one meal a day. Start practicing on that even now, one meal a day. So you're not losing your mind because you didn't have your midday fix. My battery's gonna die like any second, so um, it might have already died. So let's see. All right. So look, I'm not gonna be able to finish talking about bunkering in because that's actually probably a longer talk than what I just gave you. We're at 2 hours already. So I'm going to come back and do this. I'm not going to eat up any more of my day with this. All right, we're going to do it another time. For now, just work on your bug out bags. Work on your bug out bags. I've been getting a lot of phone calls and text messages, stuff, emails. Chief, what should we do? I'm telling you what to do, and people are trying to figure out where I'm at. If they can come where I'm at, no, I'm sorry. Like, I've been telling you what to do. I've been telling you to join the ministry. I've been telling you about the different initiatives. And I know that once this is over, you're going to be going anyway. It's got to be in your heart. Like I say, it's got to be in you and not on you. If you want to be on new and you want to be here with us, it's got to be in you. It can't just be something you're doing for some temporary, alleviation of your suffering, quote unquote, if you will. It's got to be in you. All right. So I'm going to come back. My battery's going to die, so I don't want to leave you hanging. So I'd rather just close it out, and maybe next Sabbath I'll do. I'll probably do it before then, actually, because things are changing so quickly by the day. But I got some studying that I'm doing right now, and I need to get back to my reading. All right, I study a lot, so I can't have that really interrupted too much. But I wanted to give you guys something. All right, so I'll be in touch with you all soon. Just don't panic. All right. Yeah, now the connection's going in and out all crazy. So don't panic because that's really what they're trying to get you to do so that they can institute more things. And I don't want to say they too much, right? I'm trying to give you some practicals. But I'll be back when I can be back. But you know what to do from now on. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments. And when I do the next one, I'll start it with your questions from this one. All right? So everyone, be well. And you'll be all right. You'll be all right. All right? Peace.